now, the Frankie Boyer Show continues. Once again, here's your host, Frankie Boyer.
Oh, my gosh. I am so excited to have Caryn back. Caryn Antonini is with us, and Caryn is somebody who absolutely has been involved in food. It's cultivatedbycaryn.com is her website, and Caryn, Caryn with a C, by the way, you have been curating the most gorgeous, gorgeous foods. And this, to me, is... So right now in my house, and I haven't even done a lot of fall, but I have apples that were handpicked by some friends. I have finally broke down and got one of my spaghetti squashes, which I absolutely love, love, love. I have purple potatoes and sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts. Broccoli rabe I have all the time. But this is such a fun time of the year, Caryn.
It is. It is. Thank you so much, Frankie. It's so great to be back. I love talking with you. And I totally agree that fall, there's a whole bounty of produce out there. Like you mentioned, the apples and the squash, butternut squash. There's so many great things that we can do with everything. I mean, even, so many people go apple picking. I mean, it's just a great time of year to get out and do these things. It's a little cooler, and you could go apple picking. And then you've got all these apples. I mean, obviously you can make pies or crisps, but I love making even the baked apple slices because they're healthy. It's really, really simple, and you actually need quite a few apples to make these, or you can if you're going to go to the effort to do it. You're just baking them, adding some cinnamon. You can add a little sugar if you want, but they're great snacks.
No, there's no sugar on the Frankie Boyer Show, Caryn. We don't use sugar.
No. That's right. That was
we use Lakanto. We use monk fruit. We use a little coconut sugar, but we don't use refined sugar.
That's right.
No refined anything on this program. We're gluten-free. We're a gluten-free, sugar-free radio show. And I'm serious.
So good.
We really are. And the reason being is I just made last night, and anyone, if you're listening, I made, with some of the apples that I got, I also got, they were very generous and gave me some old-fashioned apple cider, apple mulled cider. So I took apple cider, some organic eggs, some coconut oil melted, flaxseed, almond flour, tons of organic cinnamon, tons of it. And by the way, I got a big thing, Caryn, of organic cinnamon at Costco. A huge, huge thing of it, organic. $4.99, $5.99. I mean, unbelievable. I took some ginger root. I took some spices that I had, and I put the eggs and some of the spices in the Vitamix with alcohol-free vanilla, which I use, which I like. It's you can get it at Trader Joe's. It's a better version of alcohol, vanilla rather. It's alcohol-free vanilla.
I have that. Yes.
Yeah, and I just threw everything together. And a little baking, Bob's Red Mill baking soda because it's no aluminum in it. Sure. And I put it all together. And I don't use formal recipes because I just don't. And then I took some of the apple, and I put, of course, the apple the apple cider in with the eggs in the Vitamix and mixing up with all the spices. So quite a bit of the cider went in that. And when and the smells, oh my God, just making it, you could, the aroma, Caryn, just the aroma alone was spectacular.
I can imagine that ginger root. I mean, I'm everything you listed, I could smell it.
Yes, yes.
It sounds amazing.
And
so fresh.
I threw in cloves as well, a couple of cloves, just a couple. And then some cinnamon spices that I had, some, really nice spices. So that went into cupcakes in muffin tins. And
wow.
And then I took some sliced apples, more of the cinnamon, and I made like a streusel with some chopped walnuts to go on top. And I just put them on top with the and I stuck sliced apples on top, and oh my gosh. So my friend that went apple picking, I said, she got the donuts at the mill, and I said, well, I'm sure they're not as good as the donuts, but mine are healthy. And I gave her a couple of them, and she said they were better than the donuts. And they really were out of this world. Out of this world.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that's the thing with the fresh produce that people maybe forget, but it's when you're using really fresh produce and you don't need to add a lot to it. It's kind of like the Italian cuisine. I mean, that's their thing. It's like you don't need a lot. It's because when it's super fresh and seasonal, of course, then it's perfect as is. It sounds so good, Frankie.
Yes, it was. So you have your own show, and so what I do is I like to take some of your recipes, Caryn, and adapt them so that they are gluten-free and sugar-free.
Sure. Yes. So I love fall. I mean, I love all the seasons, but fall is so great because, as I said, it's getting a little cooler, as we know, but you have these great foods like a butternut squash. I mean, how easy is it? It keeps for a while. You can buy it. It's still, still good a couple weeks later. Just slice it up and slice it and dice it. And what I love to do is toss it with some olive oil, or you can use like a grapeseed or a sunflower oil, and then just sprinkle a little salt. Or, one of my guests on my show was the sous chef, the Native American Chef Sean Sherman. He's really hot right now, has some incredible recipes, and he has his cookbook, but he adds sumac to it, and it's really good. He has a slightly different, he uses a little maple syrup that you can just use a little sumac on the butternut squash, and it brings out this incredible flavor. And then you just bake it in the oven at 400 for, 30 minutes until it's, nice and a little bit browned, and it's delicious. I mean, that's one of my favorites. It's a go-to that's super simple.
So awesome. It's so awesome. Now, give me some of your other favorite recipes for this time of the year.
So this time of the year, another one is a broccoli pasta, because broccoli is actually a little less sharp tasting, a little sweeter when it's harvested in the fall. And this is great because, again, it feels like a comfort food dish. And the pasta, I mean, you can use the gluten-free, but it's really good because you do need, you need that starch, or you need your carbohydrates. But the broccoli it's so simple. I mean, you're sauteing your broccoli, you add it, and you can actually like parboil it and then saute it and add it to your pasta, and it's just so delicious, so easy. These are actually on my website if you want to take it. I love that you
go ahead. Give out the website.
It's Cultivated by Caryn, Caryn, and all the recipes are there. But I love that you don't use formal recipes. I like to do that too, is to try it and then think, okay, how are you going to add this, make it healthier or simplify? My whole thing is, like simplified traditional dishes, because, everyone loves, grandma's favorite or whomever's, but it's maybe not as healthy, so you can refine it for your taste. So I love that. I love Brussels sprouts this time of year. So good.
Oh, tell me how you do your I used to hate Brussels sprouts, and I would turn my nose.
Me too.
To everybody, and I'm like, oh, and it's the kind of way. It's the way that I feel about right now. Fiddle heads. Oh, I just don't know how anybody can eat those. They're so disgusting. In my limited palate, I just can't. But So I felt that way, though, about Brussels sprouts. And then I tasted the most extraordinary Brussels sprouts at a restaurant. And I asked the chef for the recipe, and I went home and adapted it for me. And I've been eating them and making them ever since. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to get to this new recipe. I mean, to these new Brussels sprouts that I just bought. So I trim them and wash them and cut them. And then I cut mine in half, Caryn.
Yes.
And then I season them. And then I put them in olive oil or coconut oil or a combination of the both. And then I take some melted whole food from France, this very lovely jam that I get. So it's not used with fillers or artificial ingredients, and it's real fruit. They use real fruit to sweeten it, and they keep the whole fruit in it. And because I like it a little sweet, and then I throw in a couple of pepper flakes, hot pepper flakes. So
that sounds good.
So it's like a sweet and a little. It has a little kick that you're not expecting. You're just not expecting it. And I have to tell you, they really are delicious. And then I get them as crispy as I can.
That sounds
in the oven.
That sounds amazing. I'm
going to let you tell us your recipe for a really good Brussels sprout when we come back. And give us the website as we go to break.
Okay, so it's cultivatedbycaryn.com, Caryn.
And we'll be right back. I'm Frankie Boyer. This is WCRN, WADK, and WNKC. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back. It is Frankie Boyer, WCRN, WADK, and WNKC, and we're having fun with food today. And so Caryn is with us. Caryn is back. Caryn, give us the website. Such great pictures and photographs and wonderful things that you have on your website, Caryn.
Thank you, Frankie. It's cultivatedbycaryn.com. That's Caryn.
All right. Tell us your Brussels sprout recipe, please. I want to hear. I want to hear how you make Brussels sprouts.
So you might tweak this a little bit. I have some alternatives, so I would take my Brussels sprouts the same way. I trim them and cut them in half or thirds, depending on how big. Baby Brussels sprouts obviously are a little smaller, and then put them in salted boiling water until they're just bright green and just tender. Then you drain them and put them aside. And then in a large pan.
Oh, so they get... So say that again. We boil them, or...
Yes. You would just put them in some salted boiling water for about 5 minutes, or until they turn bright green and just tender. You don't want to overdo it, because then they get a little bit mushy. But you can see if you're just, never watched the pot. But in this case, at about 3-4 minutes, I start to look at them and make sure they're just so pretty, like the colors pop. So you can just take a fork and check, and it's just tender. Then drain them and immediately put them. You can put them in an ice bath if you want after you drain them, or put a bowl of ice and then put the Brussels sprouts on top. So just to kind of cool them down, and then just set that aside. And then in a large pan, you are going to saute. You can saute some bacon. If you don't want to use bacon, you can just drizzle a little olive oil. And later, I would say add a little of your, like a bouillon. I love Star Bouillon, which is the Italian brand, because it has this incredible, very just unique flavor. But you can use the Knorr's. Star is STAR. It just has this incredible flavor. Or you can use like the Knorr's vegetable. And I like this one because it's like malleable. It's not one of those little bricks, the bouillon.
Me too. I don't know
who uses that. But anyway, so you would just get your pan nice and warm with your olive oil. If you're using the bacon, just make it brown and golden and crispy. Then you're going to add some cipollini or pearl onions. So you're going to
I love those cipollini onions. Those are my favorite, by the way.
They're so good, and you can also find them frozen. So it's a quick, like, time saver / if you can't find them in the market, then they're just as good.
Where can you find them frozen? What store? I've never seen them frozen.
I think, like, here, I'm trying to think of where, maybe Stop and Shop, or I'm trying to think of
I don't go to Stop and Shop.
Acme. Yeah, I mean, I usually go to, like, a smaller market, but, because I'm in Connecticut, but, so I think it's Bird's Eye makes them.
Okay, that's great to know. Okay, good. Perfect tip. Yep.
So those are great. And just let them defrost if you're using frozen, so they kind of drain, let the water drain a little bit. So then you're going to just add those into your pan, as well as now you can add your Brussels sprouts, and you can add a little, if you want to use honey or maple syrup, just a drizzle of that. And just cook it. It's really good. And yes, and just cook it. So there you get your sweetness, and you cook it for a few minutes until it's glazed, because you have the honey, you'll get this nice. So do you put it in the oven, or is it on top of the stove? I don't. This is all on top of the stove, and it just gets lightly caramelized. And you're going to add a little chicken stock, or you can use vegetable stock to deglaze the pan, and it's just going to get all those nice little crunchy bits from the bottom of the pan. And you can add a little more if it gets dry, but just add a little at a time if you do that, so it doesn't get too watery. And then just season it with some salt and pepper. And if it does get a little bit, if there's liquid there, just continue to cook it slowly so that just kind of burns off. And these are so delicious. I did almost the same thing as you. This was probably 15 years ago. I was in a Williams-Sonoma, and there was a chef making these, and I begged him for the recipe, and then I kind of tweaked it a little bit. But it's a really good one.
Oh, good. And I'm telling you all, if you've never tried it, it would be a really awesome thing. Really, really awesome.
Yes, I agree. My mom used to make Brussels sprouts every Thanksgiving, and they were just for green on the table. And, I did the same thing. I mean, they stink. They're smelly, but these are really, really good. My kids eat them. They're delicious. So,
yeah, as long as you make them really palatable, they work. Absolutely.
They'll try it, and that's the first step.
Okay. And now, tell me how you prepare your squashes, because I would love to know that.
So the squash, I just peel it with a large, sharp knife, and I just, that's the only tricky, it's not even that tricky, but just to get the thick skin off of it. Sometimes I just cut it in half to make it easier, more manageable, because they're big. And then just
or sometimes you can already get them cut up or cut in half as well at the market.
And then what I do is just, if you don't, you cut them into cubes, take the seeds out. You can reserve the seeds if you want to make the seeds and kind of toast them with olive oil. But just take all the seeds, cut them in cubes or buy the cubes. And then I just take a little bowl and add my olive oil and my sumac right in there. So it's all evenly coated and a little salt. And it makes it easier than drizzling.
So do you bake them?
I do. I bake them. So I bake them at, I think it's 400. Trying to remember, I do this all the time. It's just 400 for about 30, 35 minutes, depending on how big your cubes are. Just again, test it with a fork. And when it's soft, they're good to go. And they usually get a little brown on top. And and the caramelized, it gets a little caramelized from the pan because there's natural sweetness. You do not need any sugar.
No, they're so good. They're so good. So you make sure that each one has an olive oil bath.
Yes, and this sumac is, you can try that. Sometimes I don't use it. Sometimes I just do the olive oil and a little salt and pepper if you want, and just toss them in a bowl.
No, but the turmeric is so good for you.
Yes, turmeric as well, and the sumac, which is. I was inspired by that sous chef who uses that a lot, and it's just got a different flavor. And that's the thing I think about eating healthy too, and eating in general, is to change up your diet so you don't get in the same rut. Like it's a different flavor, and you think, oh wow, that's kind of different. Like you're tricking your mind a little bit.
Right. So you have on your website Italian tuna rice salad. That looks so good. Tell us about that.
Yes. So that is one of my favorites. So I like to use real Italian tuna. It's really good because it's got an incredible flavor. You can use like bumblebee, but I really like to use the Italian one and the arborio rice. So you're just going to cook your rice as you normally would according to the package instructions, and then you just toss it with your tuna and some fresh tomatoes and a little. This is kind of like you're going to just get these tomatoes. Maybe I think we can still get really good tasting tomatoes right now, and it's easy. Salt and pepper. You can add like a hard boiled egg too if you want. I mean, really, it's like the basis that you can add things, but it's just so good. And
wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
For those of you just joining us, we're having fun with food. It's such a great time of the year, and you can listen to the Cultivated by Caryn Radio podcast show. She has lots of options, and give us the best website. How can people find you, Caryn? And spell your name. It's Caryn.
That's right, Caryn. You go to cultivatedbycaryn.com. You can also find at the top of the homepage, there's the podcast, and I've got the guests and recipes. All the recipes that I have are there as well. Lots of wellness tips. So and on Instagram too, at Caryn Antonini or at Cultivated by Caryn Show.
And you're another one that loves the lemons. We need more lemon in our lives.
That's right. I love those
lemons are critical, absolutely critical. We should be eating more and more of those lemons. Caryn, thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to another conversation with you because this is the time of the year when we need all of those delicious foods. So thanks so much for being with us. So appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you, Frankie.
I'm Frankie Boyer. Thanks for listening, everybody. WCRN, WADK, and WNKC. Make it a great day, and as always, smile!
Maybe ever so near, and if you smile through your tears and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.